If I can get an emotion, a plot, an idea, a jewel, okay? Because this book is full of jewels. I mean, he was dropping gems. I mean, this book is littered, okay, with life advice if you catch it. If you catch it. I mean, hi, welcome to Earth Angel Activities, where today I will be reviewing a book. If you're familiar with my channel, I am still doing readings here. It's just that since I have found this beautiful world of people who read and people who write, I do want to share a lot of the things that I've been reading and writing. Also, I literally just found out about Book Talk, BookTube, like within the last few weeks, you know. The book that I wanted to talk to you guys about is Tress of the Emerald Sea, and it's by Brandon Sanderson, and it says that he is a New York Times bestseller. And I've heard that name is a familiar name, but it is not a book that I've read. And I remember walking past this book and just asking my daughter, like, you think this is something that you might want to read? And she was like, yeah. And so anyway, I read it. I'm going to tell you the first thing that stood out to me about this book was the author's voice. To be honest, the author's voice was the very first thing that stood out to me, because I love a heavily punctuated book. In my opinion, use more. More is best, because I guess that's my music brain thinking that way, because when you write music or when you're reading music, you know exactly how someone said it, how it's supposed to be sung, you know exactly what note is supposed to be played, you know exactly what note the singer is supposed to sing, you know. And it comes from the more notes you have, you know, between the single clef and the double clef and all that, you know, the more notes you have, and that's the way I see punctuation, it makes it readable. It makes it makes it distinguishable where you put those punctuations. And right off the bat, I was just like, I love this. I love the way he speaks. I love that I can hear his voice, you know. And then the next thing that really got to me is this man right here is not a usual human, okay? He is a very, very unusual human. And I mean that in the best of ways. I really do. Because there came a moment in the book where I feel like I wanted more action, or I feel like I wanted something from the story that I wasn't getting. And I was thinking about just not reading the book anymore. But spoiler, I was getting what I wanted all along, because I told myself, I said, if this is not that, then I'm going to be so disappointed by the end of the book. But it ended up being exactly the thing, you know. And if you've read this book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I don't want to spoil it too much, you know. But Brandon is a philosopher. This is my first Brandon Sanderson book, and I don't necessarily know that I don't know. When I was looking up reviews about this book, it seemed to be a lot of Brandon Sanderson fans. They're just established. And then when I looked up Brandon Sanderson, I was like, oh my goodness. He has a lot of books. He is a writer for real. This is not a hobby. This is for real, for real. No wonder his voice is so strong, you know. And that was the thing that I loved. And I also love the fact that I didn't know that he was a Beyonce of books or whatever. I'm glad I didn't know that, because I feel like sometimes when you know someone is when you already know that someone's established, you kind of give them false accolades. And I don't really read that way. So, um, if I don't like it, I don't like it, and that's just the end of it. But this I really enjoyed. It was giving Pippi Longstocking, but sophisticated Pippi Longstocking. It was giving resourcefulness, somewhat like I really, it was just so unique. And then when I was listening to some other people on BookTube talking about Brandon Sanderson and the Cosmere, I was like, oh, he has built an entire world, and this was just a story in that world. So Brandon is smart, though, and he is a philosopher of life, and you can see that time and time and time again in this book. I highlighted, there were some things that I wasn't a big fan of. Like, I wanted the book to do something else, I feel, and I became impatient. And I think that the fact that I became impatient during the read, I feel that that was even a lesson within itself, spiritually speaking, because I was like, it's such a good book. I mean, as far as his voice, the plot also, I think that the part that kind of irritated my nerves was being on the boat so long. Yeah, but I know that a lot of people really enjoy that setting of being on a boat. But for me, being on a boat, it kind of like, I guess it strikes a little bit of anxiety. And it's not because I'm afraid of boats. It's more so because of the monotony of what I see when I'm on a boat. So, like being on a cruise, when you look out into that vast blue, I know that for some people it's so calming, but for me, I don't necessarily like it. It makes me feel a bit unnerved. and but with this, it was just so unique. Like I said, lots of spoilers, okay? But I'm going to try not to spoil it too much, because hopefully you'll read it too, because it's very, very, I guess this would go in the cozy section, but it was like a coming of age story. And then I think the thing that got me, besides being on the boat so long, was the fact that I feel like, how do I say? So, but like I said, with his story, it's not just a vast blue, it's not that. It is anything but that. I mean, just imagining the way that he describes the sea within itself. I mean, the green color. That was very interesting. I also liked the way that he describes the sea. I really enjoyed that. I was just like, through the whole story, I'm wondering, like, what do these spores really look like? Like, like, how big are they? Are they tiny? Because my scientific mind is like, maybe they're super tiny, like a real spore. And then my fantasy mind was picturing golf balls. So, but then when we got to, another thing, like, one thing that I kind of was at a miss with were the way he describes, like, the cups and how much went into talking about those cups. But I will say that, because I was like, well, by the time I got to the middle of the book, I'm thinking that, like, this cup, like, the butterfly is going to pop up off of the cup, and it's going to create some magical parachute, and it's going to take her across to the Crimson Sea. I don't know. Like, in my mind, I just wanted something, like, out of this world with those cups, But, I think that he was very solid with his magic system. It was very consistent. And that's where the Pippi Longstocking vibes for me came from. Sophisticated Pippi Longstocking. It just felt like a coming of age story. And I also felt like those cups, you know, as you listen to the way he's describing the cups over the course of the story, I realized that the cup wasn't the magic. The magic was Tress evolving and becoming something new, because you see these cups really go through a lot, just like she was going through a lot. And you see how the cups evolve, but she still loved them. You know what I mean? So I like that aspect. It was like a very grounded point in the plot. So I love that too. And then I'm not going to tell you guys like all the gems, because I highlighted as many as I could, but I'm not going to tell you guys all the gems, because I feel like reading and digging for them makes them mean so much more. It makes them so much more meaningful. I mean, there was one, yes, this is the one. I'm so glad, because I put a heart beside this. So, Mr. Sanderson says, if you wish to become a storyteller, here's a hint. Sell your labor, but not your mind. Give me 10 hours a day scrubbing a deck, and oh, the stories I could imagine. Give me 10 hours adding sums, and all you'll have me imagining at the end is a warm bed and a thought-free evening. I was like, yes, Brandon. Yes, Brandon. Tell the truth, Brandon. Speak it like you know it, Brandon. And let's see. Yeah, I think that through, like, after chapter 13, I feel like I got a little bit like, I want something to happen. But things were happening. Don't think things were not happening. A lot of things were happening through this mist, okay? Yeah, I put a heart by this one too. So I'm going to give you these two. And that's all you're going to get from this review. Okay. Okay, so I can't even read all of this. But anyway, he tells this cute story within a story. So it's like this cute little short story that if you catch it, right? But he's telling this cute little story about how small actions have consequences, and it's about potatoes. And I thought it was so cute and so well told, and the punctuation, chef's kiss, I was just like, oh yes, Brandon, yes, I really love this. I really love this. I'm so glad that I didn't DNF it because I was being controlling. Yes, I was being controlling. And honestly, I do think that sometimes, I'm not going to say that that's why other people DNF, but I do feel like sometimes when I listen to people saying the reasons why they don't finish a book, I feel like it has a lot to do with control sometimes, because sometimes we want the story to be a certain thing and we want the author to sound a certain way, but it doesn't mean that the story they have to tell isn't worth hearing if you can hear it all the way out. I know there have been a lot of stories that, a lot of books that I've read that when I got to the end of it, I was just like, you know, what's the point? I really didn't get plot, you know, but if I can get an emotion, a plot, an idea, a jewel, okay? Because this book is full of jewels. I mean, he was dropping gems. I mean, this book is littered, okay, with life advice if you catch it. I mean, Brandon has got to have many of days just sitting there by himself thinking, I would assume, because you don't just come up with stuff like this without having first had to live through something and pull the beauty from the ashes at times. And this is what I see from this author, that he's an overcomer, he's a thinker, he's a philosopher of life, and he's an odd little human. That's what I'm seeing, and I am very impressed by this. I love his author voice, and I am planning on reading something else. But I want something more adventurous, and I want something more adventurous in a sense where, because this was a big adventure, like, don't get me wrong, this was a major adventure. I mean, I wouldn't have done what Tress had done. Okay, like she was doing big things. But I want to read something else. Like, I don't want to be on a boat. I want to move around a lot. I want a big cast. I want intricate stuff. I want to understand the Cosmere. Okay, like this book, when we came from the Verdant Sea or the Emerald Sea, and we moved into the Crimson Sea. At first, when he said the Crimson Sea, I was just like, oh, okay, Crimson, yay. But something about him using the word red, as simple as it was, it really livened up the mood for me and livened up the story, because it made me visualize such a vision. And then the way he goes on to describe it, which I won't ruin that for you either, because he gets very vivid in how the environment looks, how it feels. It's very moody in that sense of using color. And so when the book started to shift in color, when the scene started to shift color, is when I was just like, yes, I love this. This is yes, I like this. So that was it for me. I didn't want to be on the Emerald Sea in that boat for so long. I think that was the biggest thing for me. But while she was on this boat, I mean, it was just so, when you like when you finish it and you just think back and you reflect on her journey, and it's like, isn't life like that sometimes? It's like you're trying to control so much what you think a story should be, or how you think something should go, and you have this planned and that planned, and it just doesn't go as planned. And then there come these moments where you feel as if it's just not going to work out, and you've done all you can, and then you reach this space where you're like, wow. And I'm getting chill bumps just thinking about it, but you're like, wow, it was always working out for me. It was always working out for me. Always. And that's why I really love this book. So I will be reading another one. If you have any suggestions of which one to start with. So anyway, I'm going to end this here. I hope that you guys are doing well. And until next time, continue to vibrate love and vibrate well.